The metallic scent of burned ozone still lingered in the air as Commander Elias Vance stepped carefully through the ruined battlefield of Varkath 7. The once great city now lay in silence, its towering structures reduced to shattered remains. The mission had gone wrong, terribly wrong. His team was dead, the diplomatic talks had turned into an ambush, and now he was the last human standing in enemy territory. But Elias was not afraid. Fear was for people who had the luxury of doubting their survival. Right now, he had no such luxury. He heard the sound of heavy footsteps behind him. Slow, measured, powerful. Elias turned, his muscles tensed, ready for another fight. What he saw made even a hardened soldier like him pause. A towering alien woman stood before him, her deep violet skin gleaming under the pale light of the ruined city. She was Xilari, one of the most feared warriors in the galaxy. 7 feet tall, clad in black armor lined with scars, she looked like a living nightmare. Her eyes, golden and sharp, studied him like a predator deciding whether to pounce. Elias had seen monsters before. This wasn't one. She was something else. The Xilari woman tilted her head slightly, a mixture of confusion and curiosity in her expression. When she spoke, her voice was deep and resonant, filled with the authority of someone who had seen countless battles. Everyone is afraid of me, but why aren't you afraid of me, human? Elias wiped the sweat off his brow and let out a slow breath. He could feel the weight of her gaze, the expectation of his fear, but fear wasn't useful right now. Instead, he chuckled. Not a nervous laugh, not a forced one, just an honest, amused chuckle. "Should I be?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Her golden eyes narrowed. She took a step closer, towering over him, the heat of her presence pressing against his skin. "Every species I have encountered trembles before me. They beg for their lives. They run. You stand before me, smiling like a fool." Elias shrugged. Running wouldn't help, and begging. That's not really my style. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then, to his surprise, she smirked. A small, sharp curve of her lips, just enough to hint at amusement. "Interesting," she murmured. Elias didn't move, didn't blink. He had seen fearsome warriors before, but something about this Xilari felt different. Not just strength, not just power. There was something deeper beneath the surface. He had a feeling this was just the beginning. "So," Elias said, cracking his knuckles, "are we going to talk, or are you planning to kill me?" Her smirk widened just a little. "That depends," she said, her golden eyes gleaming with something dangerous. "Are you worthy of standing before me, human?" Elias grinned. "Guess we're about to find out." The ruins of Varkath 7 stretched far into the distance, but Elias and Zenera didn't have time to admire the destruction. They moved quickly through the debris, staying in the shadows. The Xilari High Guard would come soon. Zenera's former allies, now her enemies. Elias checked his weapon. A standard-issue plasma pistol, half a charge left. Not great, but better than nothing. "So," he said, glancing at Zenera, "what's the plan?" "Just charge in and start breaking things." Zenera smirked. "Tempting. But no, we must be smart. The High Guard is powerful, but they are arrogant. They believe they have already won." Elias nodded. "That's a mistake." "Yes," Zenera agreed, "and we will make them pay for it." They reached a crumbling tower that overlooked the city. From there, they could see movement in the distance, Xilari soldiers in dark armor patrolling the area. Hover drones scanned the ruins, searching for any sign of them. Elias frowned. "Looks like they sent a welcoming party." Zenera's expression hardened. "They want to make sure I am dead." Elias studied the patrols. "We can't fight them head-on. Too many, but if we separate them, take them out one by one." Zenera nodded approvingly. "Clever. A human who thinks before he fights. Rare." Elias smirked. "I try my best." They moved carefully, slipping through the ruins, avoiding detection. The first target was a lone soldier standing near a broken transport vehicle. Elias crouched behind a fallen pillar, waiting for the right moment. Zinara placed a hand on his shoulder. "Watch and learn, human." Before Elias could respond, she moved. Fast, silent, deadly. 1 second, the soldier was standing guard. The next, Zinara had him in a chokehold, his body going limp. She lowered him to the ground without a sound. Elias whistled. "Remind me not to get on your bad side." Zinara smirked. Too late for that. They continued through the ruins, taking down patrols one by one. Every fight was quick, precise. Elias handled his share, using speed and strategy to bring down enemies before they could call for backup. Soon, only one enemy remained. Auxiliary captain, taller and stronger than the others. He stood in the center of the ruins, scanning the area, his weapon ready. Zinara's golden eyes gleamed. "This one is mine." She stepped forward, her voice cold. "Captain Vorak." The auxiliary turned, eyes widening in shock. "You." Zinara moved. Her fist slammed into his chest, sending him crashing into a wall. He roared in pain but didn't go down. He lunged at her, but she sidestepped, grabbing his arm and twisting it. A sickening crack filled the air. Elias winced. Ouch. Vorak collapsed, groaning in pain. Zinara knelt beside him. "Tell your commanders," she said, voice sharp, "Zinara lives. And she is coming for them." Elias grinned. "Well, that should get their attention." Zinara smirked. "Yes. Now, the real battle begins." The night was cold and silent, but Elias and Zinara knew it wouldn't last. War was coming. The Silari High Guard would not let this insult go unanswered. Elias sat on a broken steel beam, checking his weapons. His plasma pistol was fully charged, and his rifle had just enough energy left for a few precise shots. Not much, but it would have to do. Zinara stood nearby, sharpening the edge of her armored gauntlet. Sparks flew as the metal scraped against a blade. She looked calm, but Elias could see the fire in her golden eyes. "They will bring everything they have," she said. "Tanks, warships, elite warriors. They will not stop until we are dead." Elias smirked. "Sounds like a fun night." Zinara chuckled. "You humans truly enjoy chaos, don't you?" Elias shrugged. "We don't start fights, but we sure know how to finish them." Zinara nodded. "Then we will make our stand here." She pointed to the ruins around them. High towers, crumbling bridges, narrow passageways. A perfect battlefield for a smaller force to fight a much larger one. "They have numbers," she said. "We have strategy." Elias grinned, and a little bit of crazy. Zinara smirked. "That too." Hours passed. Then, at the first light of dawn, they heard it, the deep hum of warships approaching. Elias climbed to a high vantage point, peering through his rifle's scope. "Here they come." Massive Silari dropships hovered over the ruins, deploying squads of heavily armored soldiers. Tanks rumbled forward, their cannons glowing with energy. The High Guard was here in full force. Zinara stood at the center of the battlefield, watching them approach. She took a deep breath, then raised her voice. "Come, cowards," she roared. "Face the warrior you betrayed." The enemy hesitated. Even with all their numbers, they feared her. Elias smirked. "You've got away with words." Then the first shot was fired. A auxiliary cannon roared, blasting a chunk of stone where Zinara had stood moments before. She dodged with lightning speed, closing the distance before the enemy could react. Elias fired from above, taking down officers and targeting weak points in their armor. Every shot counted. Zinara was unstoppable. She tore through enemy lines, moving like a force of nature. Her claws ripped through steel, her fists shattered helmets. But the High Guard kept coming. Elias saw a group of snipers taking position on a nearby ridge. "Zinara, cover me," he called, leaping down from his perch. She nodded, breaking off from her fight to shield him. Plasma bolts bounced off her armor as she charged forward, clearing a path. Elias sprinted through the chaos, sliding into cover. He raised his rifle, took aim, and fired. One by one, the snipers fell. The battle raged on, and in the heart of it, two warriors stood together, fighting against impossible odds. And neither of them planned to lose. Elias sat on a broken stone, rubbing his sore shoulder. His fight with Zenara had left bruises, but he was still in one piece, a victory in itself. Across from him, Zenara stood with her arms crossed, watching him with something close to amusement. "You are different from the others I have faced," she said. "Most would be dead by now." Elias smirked. "Well, humans don't go down easy." Zenara studied him for a moment before speaking again, her voice quieter this time. "Tell me, human, have you ever been betrayed?" Elias raised an eyebrow. The shift in her tone caught his attention. "Yeah," he said. "Comes with the job." Zenara nodded slowly. "Then you understand." "Understand what?" Elias asked, leaning forward. Zenara's expression darkened. "I was once a commander of the Silari High Guard. Feared, respected. But my own people turned against me." She clenched her fists. "They called me too ruthless, too dangerous, even for our kind. So they tried to kill me." Elias let out a low whistle. "Sounds like a rough day." She gave a bitter smirk. "You could say that." Elias watched her carefully. He had met warriors who fought for power, for glory, for survival. But Zenara's eyes held something else, something deeper. "You want revenge," he said. It wasn't a question. Zenara's golden eyes locked onto his. "I want justice." Elias let out a slow breath. "And where do I come in?" She stepped closer, her towering figure casting a shadow over him. "You are strong, clever, unafraid. I need an ally who does not break under pressure, someone who knows how to fight against impossible odds." Elias chuckled. "I've been called a lot of things, but never an ally to Exilari." Zenara smirked. "There is a first time for everything." Elias leaned back, thinking. He wasn't stupid. Getting involved in Exilari politics was a dangerous game, but something about Zenara intrigued him. She wasn't just another warlord seeking power. She had been cast aside by her own people, just like him. And if there was one thing humans hated, it was injustice. Finally, Elias stood up, meeting her gaze. "All right," he said. "I'm in." Zenara raised an eyebrow. "Just like that?" Elias shrugged. "I've got nothing better to do. Besides, I'm curious to see just how much trouble we can cause together." Zenara let out a low chuckle. "Then prepare yourself, human. The road ahead will not be easy." Elias smirked. "Good. I'd hate for it to be boring." For the first time in a long while, Zenara felt something strange. Not just respect, but trust. Perhaps this human was exactly what she needed. The battlefield was chaos. Smoke filled the air, and the ground shook with every explosion. The Exilari High Guard was relentless, pushing forward with overwhelming force. But Elias and Zenara refused to fall. Elias ducked behind a broken wall as plasma fire rained down. His rifle was overheating, and his pistol was running low on charge. "Not looking good," he muttered. Zenara landed beside him, her armor dented, her claws dripping with energy from the enemy she had slain. "We fight until the end," she said. Elias grinned, wiping sweat from his forehead. No argument there. Suddenly, a deep hum filled the air. A massive Exilari warship descended, its cannons glowing bright. The enemy was bringing in heavy firepower. Zenara clenched her fists. "They fear us. That is why they bring their strongest weapons." Elias looked up at the warship, then at the battlefield. The Exilari forces were closing in, but something felt off. Then he saw it. Beyond the warship in the distant sky, more ships appeared, smaller, faster, and marked with a different symbol. Elias's eyes widened. Reinforcements. Zenera followed his gaze. Her expression darkened. No, not reinforcements. They are auxiliary rebels. Elias frowned. Friends of yours? Zenera smirked. No, enemies of my enemies. The rebel ships opened fire on the High Guard's warship, catching them by surprise. Missiles and plasma beams tore through its hull, forcing it to pull back. The auxiliary soldiers on the ground hesitated, confused. Elias saw the opportunity. Now's our chance. Let's finish this. Zenera nodded. We push forward. They charged. The enemy, now caught between two forces, began to fall apart. Some soldiers tried to retreat, but the rebels cut them off. Others fought desperately, but they were losing ground. Elias fought with precision, every shot landing exactly where it needed to. His body was exhausted, but his mind was sharp. Zenera fought like a storm, breaking through the enemy ranks with sheer strength and speed. Then, finally, it happened. The last of the High Guard's commanders fell, his body hitting the ground with a heavy thud. The remaining soldiers dropped their weapons, surrendering. Elias let out a breath, lowering his rifle. We did it. Zenera stood over the fallen commander, her golden eyes burning with victory. No, she said, this is only the beginning. The rebel ships landed, and a group of Silari warriors stepped out. Their leader, a tall figure with red markings on his armor, approached Zenera. You fight well, he said. Perhaps we should talk. Elias raised an eyebrow. Looks like you've made some new friends. Zenera smirked. Or new enemies. We shall see. The war wasn't over, but for the first time, they had a chance. And Elias knew one thing for sure. Whatever came next, he and Zenera would face it together. Zenera stepped forward, rolling her shoulders. The metal plates of her armor shifted with the movement, gleaming under the pale light. Her golden eyes never left Elias, who stood a few feet away, cracking his knuckles. You speak well, human, she said, but words do not prove strength. Warriors are tested in battle, not in conversation. Elias sighed, stretching his arms. You want to fight, huh? Zenera smirked. I want to see if your defiance is backed by skill, or if it is just the foolishness of your kind. Elias grinned. All right. No weapons? Zenera scoffed. You would not survive if I used a blade. Fair enough. Elias took a fighting stance. Try not to break me too much. Zenera didn't respond. She moved. She was fast. Faster than anything Elias had fought before. 1 second, she was standing still. The next, she was in front of him, her fist crashing toward his chest like a sledgehammer. Elias barely dodged, twisting his body just in time. The air rippled from the force of the punch, and a nearby chunk of debris shattered. Not bad, Elias muttered, stepping back. Zenera's smirk widened. You can move. Good. She struck again, this time a sweeping kick aimed at his ribs. Elias dropped low, rolling under the attack before jumping back to his feet. He barely had time to react before she lunged again. He blocked her next strike, but it felt like catching a battering ram. The impact sent him skidding backward. Damn, Elias muttered, shaking out his numb arm. You hit like a tank. You are still standing, Zenera said, a hint of approval in her voice. Impressive. Elias took a deep breath, shifting his stance. He couldn't match her strength. He couldn't overpower her. But he had speed. He had technique. And most importantly, he had something humans always relied on: adaptability. He waited for her next attack. This time, when she swung, he didn't just dodge. He moved with her strike, redirecting her momentum. Using her own strength against her, he twisted around and drove his elbow into her side. Zenera stumbled, just for a second, just long enough for Elias to step back grinning. Not bad, he said. Zenera touched her side where he had struck. Then, to his surprise, she laughed. A deep, genuine laugh. "You surprise me, human," she said. "Few warriors have ever landed a hit on me." Elias smirked. "Guess I'm full of surprises." Zenara studied him, then nodded. "You are worthy of standing before me, Elias Vance." Elias relaxed his stance, rolling his shoulder. "Does that mean we're done beating each other up?" "For now," Zenara said, her golden eyes gleaming. "But I suspect this is only the beginning." Elias grinned. "Yeah, I have a feeling you're right." The sun was setting over the ruins of Varkath 7, casting long shadows over the battlefield. The auxiliary patrols were gone, but Elias knew they would return, this time in greater numbers. Zenara stood at the edge of a crumbling building, watching the distant horizon. "They will come soon," she said, "now that they know I am alive. They will not stop until I am dead." Elias leaned against a broken pillar, reloading his plasma pistol. "Good. Saves us the trouble of hunting them down." Zenara turned to him, her golden eyes studying his face. "You truly do not fear death, do you?" Elias smirked. "I fear dying for nothing. But this feels like something worth fighting for." Zenara nodded approvingly. "Then we must strike first." Elias raised an eyebrow. "I thought we were running." Zenara chuckled. "Running? No, we are setting a trap." Elias grinned. "Now you're speaking my language." They moved quickly through the ruins, setting up their ambush. Zenara knew the High Guard well. She had fought beside them for years. She knew how they thought, how they moved. That knowledge would be their weapon. Elias found a high vantage point, setting up his rifle. "All right," he said. "What's the signal?" Zenara smirked. "When you hear screaming, start shooting." Elias laughed. "You really enjoy this, don't you?" She flexed her claws. "I was born for battle." Moments later, the sound of engines roared in the distance. A squad of auxiliary soldiers approached in armored transports, weapons ready. They moved in formation, cautious but confident. They thought they were hunting Zenara. They were wrong. The first explosion rocked the ground beneath them. A carefully placed charge sent one of their vehicles flipping into the air, crashing into the ruins. Before the dust settled, Zenara was among them. She moved like a storm, fast, relentless, unstoppable. Her claws tore through armor, her fists shattered bones. The auxiliary soldiers fought back, but it was no use. She was stronger, faster, and she had nothing left to lose. From above, Elias picked off enemies with precise shots, covering her as she tore through their ranks. The battle was over in minutes. The last surviving auxiliary, a lieutenant, tried to crawl away. Zenara grabbed him by the collar, lifting him off the ground. "Where is your commander?" she demanded. The soldier coughed, eyes wide with terror. He is coming. With the full force of the High Guard, you cannot win." Zenara smirked. "We shall see." She let him go. He scrambled away, disappearing into the ruins. Elias jumped down from his vantage point, shaking his head. "You really love making enemies, don't you?" Zenara's golden eyes gleamed. "No, human. I simply enjoy making them afraid." Elias grinned. "Well, mission accomplished. Now what?" Zenara turned toward the horizon. "Now we prepare for war." Zenara folded her arms, watching the human with curiosity. His name was Elias Vance. He should have been on his knees, trembling, like every other species that faced her. Yet he stood tall, meeting her gaze without fear. She had fought wars, crushed empires, and made entire civilizations bow before her. Fear was her weapon. Respect was earned through power. But this human, he acted as if she was just another soldier. Elias tilted his head, waiting. "So, what now? You going to stare at me all day, or do you actually have a reason for stopping me?" Zenara narrowed her golden eyes. His voice was steady, his breathing calm. Even the weak could pretend to be brave, but this was different. This was not an act. She took a slow step forward, her heavy boots pressing into the cracked ground. "You are strange, human," she said. "You do not fear me. Why?" Elias gave a small shrug. "I don't see a reason to." Zenara let out a low chuckle. "I could crush you in an instant." "Maybe," Elias admitted, his lips twitching into a smirk. "But talking is more interesting." Zenara's amusement faded slightly. "You think words will save you?" "Words have saved a lot of people," Elias replied. "And they've started wars too. But let's be real. You're not here to kill me, are you?" Zenara stared at him for a long moment. No, she wasn't. If she had wanted him dead, he would already be lying in the dirt. But something about him made her hesitate. It annoyed her. "I do not understand your kind," she finally said. "Most species bow to strength. They cower before warriors like me. But you?" She narrowed her eyes. "Humans are different. I have seen your kind fight. You should fear stronger enemies. And yet, you fight anyway. Why?" Elias crossed his arms. "Because we don't like being told we can't." Zenara frowned. That was not an answer she had expected. "Explain." Elias sighed, glancing at the sky, then back at her. "Fear isn't bad. But if you let it control you, you lose. Humans don't run from things just because they're scary. We face them. We learn. We adapt. And sometimes, we win." Zenara watched him closely. There was no arrogance in his voice, no empty boasting, just quiet certainty. "Interesting," she murmured. "Perhaps that is why humans have survived against stronger enemies." Elias smirked. "Maybe." A silence settled between them, but it was no longer tense. There was something else now, something unspoken. Zenara finally stepped back. "Very well, human. You have earned my curiosity. Let us see if you can also earn my respect." Elias chuckled. "Guess we'll find out." And for the first time in a long while, Zenara felt something she did not expect. Not fear, but the thrill of meeting a worthy opponent. Zenara sat on a broken pillar, her golden eyes locked onto the human before her. The ruins of Varkath 7 stretched around them, silent witnesses to the destruction. A cold wind passed through the shattered city, but neither of them moved. Elias leaned against a piece of wreckage, arms crossed, completely at ease. It annoyed her. "Tell me, human," Zenara said, voice low. "Has your kind always been this foolish?" Elias raised an eyebrow. "Depends on who you ask." Zenara scoffed. "You stand before me without fear. You speak as if we are equals. I have conquered entire worlds. I have crushed warriors stronger than you. And yet you still act as if I am just another soldier." Elias smirked. "Because you are." For a brief second, silence hung in the air. Then Zenara was on her feet, moving fast, too fast. Before Elias could react, her massive hand wrapped around his throat, lifting him off the ground. "Say that again, human," she growled. Elias gasped, feeling the pressure of her grip, but he didn't struggle. He didn't beg. He just stared straight into her golden eyes with that same calm defiance. "You're a warrior," he said, his voice strained but steady. "Like me. You bleed, you fight, you survive. You're not a god. You're not invincible. You're just really, really strong." Zenara's grip tightened for a moment. Then, to his surprise, she let go. He dropped to the ground, coughing, rubbing his neck. "You are either the bravest human I have met," Zenara said, "or the most foolish." Elias grinned, his voice rough. "Can't I be both?" Zenara studied him. She had seen warriors from across the galaxy, some noble, some ruthless. But humans were different. They fought without hesitation, even against impossible odds. They refused to break, even when death was certain. She had always believed fear was the greatest weapon, but Elias showed none. "You humans," she murmured, "you do not know when to submit." Elias dusted off his jacket. "Nope, that's not really our thing." Zenara exhaled, shaking her head. Tell me then, if you had the choice between running and fighting a battle you could not win, what would you do? Elias's smirk faded. His expression turned serious. That depends, he said. Is there something worth fighting for? Zenara narrowed her eyes. And if there was? Elias straightened. Then we fight, even if we lose. Zenara watched him in silence. Most species feared death. They feared defeat. But this human, he accepted both and still chose to stand. Perhaps that was why humanity survived. For the first time, she understood why Elias wasn't afraid. And for the first time, she wanted to see just how far a human's defiance could go. The battlefield was quiet now. The smoke cleared, and the bodies of fallen warriors lay scattered across the ruins. The High Guard had been defeated, but Elias knew this was not the end. Zenara stood tall, facing the Xilari rebel leader. His red-marked armor gleamed under the rising sun. He studied her for a long moment before speaking. You have made quite an enemy of the High Guard, he said. But you are still Xilari. Why do you fight against your own kind? Zenara's golden eyes burned with determination. Because they betrayed me. They feared my strength, so they cast me aside. Now, I will make them regret it. The rebel leader smirked. Good. Then we have the same goal. Elias leaned against a broken pillar, arms crossed. I take it you're not exactly friends with the High Guard either. The rebel leader glanced at him. Human, I am Commander Varrock. And no, we are not friends. We have been fighting the High Guard for years, but until now, we lacked a warrior strong enough to challenge them directly. Zenara's expression remained unreadable. And now you believe you have found one. Varrock nodded. Perhaps. Join us, and together, we can bring down the High Council once and for all. Elias exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. Sounds like another war is starting. Zenara looked at Elias. You have fought by my side without hesitation. What do you think? Elias chuckled. I think I signed up for a fight, not politics. He paused, then his grin faded. But if the High Guard stays in power, they'll never stop hunting us. So yeah, I say we see this through. Zenara smirked. Then we fight. Varrock extended his arm. Then welcome, warrior. Together, we will reshape the future of our people. Zenara clasped his forearm in a warrior's grip. Elias sighed, checking his half-broken rifle. Great. More enemies to piss off. Varrock chuckled. Do not worry, human. If you survive long enough, they may even fear you as much as they fear her. Elias smirked. Oh, I'm counting on it. As the rebel ships prepared to take off, Elias looked out at the ruins one last time. He had come here alone, a human caught in the middle of an alien war. Now he was leaving with an army, a purpose, and an unlikely ally who was becoming something more. The war was far from over, but for the first time, Elias and Zenara weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. And the galaxy was about to learn why humans never back down.